It was a cold evening in 2001, and the day was fading. The sky was filled with dark clouds, and there was thick darkness all around. It was Ethan's first day in New York City. He had been admitted to the coaching center, but the whole day was spent searching for a room to stay. While getting admission in good colleges and coaching institutes is easy, finding a room for bachelor boys is much more difficult. Ethan was thinking about where to spend the night, when suddenly there was a loud thunderclap, and Ethan was snapped out of his thoughts. Although New York is usually crowded, Ethan was standing at a bus stop in an outer area where there was no one around. The weather was getting worse, and there was not a single soul in sight. Suddenly, Ethan felt someone behind him. When he turned around, he saw a girl wearing jeans and a hoodie standing there. Ethan stood silently for a while, watching the rain. Then, looking at the girl, he said, "You shouldn't have been out alone at this hour. The weather is bad. You should have called someone from home to come pick you up." The girl glanced at him and then looked away without saying anything. Ethan found her behavior a bit strange, so he decided not to say anything further and continued to wait for the bus. They had been standing at the bus stop for about 40 to 45 minutes, and it was now around 9:30 p.m. Ethan was getting very hungry, and waiting any longer at the bus stop was becoming even more difficult. "I don't think any bus will come from this route," Ethan said. "You're not from New York, are you?" "No, I'm from Buffalo. I've come here for coaching. I got admission, but I haven't arranged a place to stay yet, so I've been looking for a room all day." "That's why I'm late," Ethan replied. "So, where will you go now?" "I guess I'll stay at a lodge near the train station." "Actually, there's a vacant flat in my building. If you need a place to stay, I can help you." "Okay, where do you live?" Ethan asked. "My flat is not far from here. I live there on rent. If you want, I can show you." "Are you sure?" "It's quite late. I can come by in the morning." Ethan hesitated. "This is New York. The night never really ends here. Besides, this bus stop is not safe. There's a cemetery right in front, and people have had paranormal experiences here. You believe in ghosts, don't you? Ever felt someone's presence in the middle of the night? In the silence?" Ethan thought for a moment before agreeing. "All right, I'll go with you. But why were you standing here alone at this hour? You could have walked back easily." "I was waiting for my friend, but she won't come now. She'll probably stay with her boyfriend. Anyway, I'm not scared of anything. By the way, my name is Eva, and I'm from Rochester." After walking for a while, Ethan and Eva reached an old neighborhood. It looked like a government housing area, with a large iron gate at the entrance, its paint peeling off in places. The neighborhood was old and deserted, which made it feel a bit strange. "Do you live here?" Ethan asked. "Yes, not many people live here. Many houses are vacant. This house, number 3, is empty. You can stay here if you want. I live in the house next to it," Eva replied. Ethan entered the house, turned on the lights, and was startled to find Eva standing in front of him. "How did you get in?" "You were supposed to leave," Ethan asked. "I came in with you. You were too busy in the dark to notice. Anyway, there's a bed here. It's vacant since last week. You can stay here for the night." Ethan couldn't believe his luck. In a big city like New York, he had met such a helpful and beautiful girl on his first day. He decided to stay there for the night. The next morning, Eva told him, "You can stay here as long as you need. The rent is my friend's. You can pay me and I'll handle it." Ethan was overwhelmed by her kindness. "I work at a bank. I go for coaching in the afternoon for 2 hours, so you can meet me any time," Eva added. But she also warned him, "No outsiders are allowed here. Don't bring anyone to this neighborhood, and don't disturb the neighbors." Ethan was grateful for her help and continued staying there. They spent hours talking about their dreams and future. But as days passed, Ethan began to notice something odd. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, and the other houses seemed completely deserted. There was no sound, and it felt like the place was abandoned. One evening, while sitting with Eva, Ethan noticed a man staring at them from a distance. "Who's that guy? Every time I sit here with you, I feel like he's watching us." "Do you think he's a ghost?" Ethan asked, feeling uneasy. "I don't know, but he gives me a bad feeling too," Eva replied. Soon, Eva moved in with Ethan, and they lived together, happy and content. But then things started to get stranger. When Ethan's friend Daniel came to visit him, he saw that the neighborhood appeared to be abandoned. All the houses were in ruins, and no one seemed to be living there. "Are you sure you live here?" "This place looks completely deserted," Daniel questioned. Ethan was confused and started to question his own sanity. I've lived here for a year, but this doesn't look like the same place. What happened to it? When they went to ask the neighbors, they found that no one had seen Eva. Eventually, they realized that no one in the neighborhood had ever heard of her, and everything Ethan had experienced in the past year seemed to be a lie. In a state of confusion, Ethan was forced to return home to his village, where he tried to forget everything that had happened. He eventually found a job, but the memories of Eva and the eerie events never left him. Ethan's life went on, but he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. He tried to get back to a normal routine, focusing on his work and future, but every so often his mind would wander back to the events in that eerie neighborhood. Months passed, and Ethan rarely spoke of that night to anyone, trying to bury the strange experiences deep within his memory. But sometimes, while walking down the street or sitting in his room, he would hear the faint sound of footsteps behind him, as though someone were following him. One evening, while browsing through his phone, he stumbled upon an old news article that sent a chill down his spine. The article detailed a tragic story about a young woman named Eva who had died in a car accident several years ago. The report mentioned that she had been studying in New York for the UPSC exam and had lived in a neighborhood that matched the one Ethan had stayed in. According to the article, Eva had been killed on the same night Ethan had first met her at the bus stop. The coincidence was too much for Ethan to ignore. He now questioned if Eva had ever been real, or if she was some sort of ghost who had appeared to him that night. The strange occurrences, the vacant neighborhood, the strange man watching them, was it all connected to Ava's tragic fate? Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, Ethan decided to return to New York, to the same neighborhood where he had stayed with Eva. He needed answers, and he believed that by returning, he could finally uncover the truth about what had happened. When he arrived, he found that the neighborhood looked even more desolate than before. The houses were dilapidated, and the air was thick with an unsettling silence. Ethan walked through the familiar streets, looking for any sign of Eva or any answers. He reached the house where he had stayed, the one that had once been empty but now seemed abandoned and in ruins. As he stood in front of the house, memories of his time there flooded his mind, the feeling of Ava's presence, the comfort she had given him, the late-night talks. They all felt so real. But now, standing in front of the crumbling house, it felt like a distant dream. Suddenly, Ethan heard a soft voice behind him, calling his name. He spun around, his heart racing. Standing there, bathed in the fading light of the setting sun, was Eva. She looked just as she had the night they had met at the bus stop, wearing the same clothes, her expression serene but distant. "You came back," she whispered softly. "I knew you would." Ethan's mind raced. "Eva, is this real? Are you alive?" Eva smiled sadly, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I was real, Ethan. I was once just like you, but now I'm part of this place, this neighborhood. It's where I was meant to be. But you were never supposed to come here. You were only meant to stay for one night." "What are you saying?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "What happened to you? Why did I meet you?" Eva stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper now. "Sometimes souls linger, caught between the living and the dead. I'm one of them. I couldn't let you go. I needed someone to understand." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "But why me? Why did you choose me?" "Because you were lost, just like me. You needed help, and I was there. But now you need to move on. It's time to let go." Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he realized the depth of the situation. Eva wasn't a ghost looking for company. She was a soul trapped in the past, unable to move forward. And now she was asking him to let go of the past as well. With one final look, Eva turned and began to walk away, fading into the darkness of the neighborhood. Ethan stood there, feeling a mixture of sadness and peace, knowing that he could no longer hold on to the memories of that night. Eva was gone, but her presence had forever left a mark on his heart. He left the neighborhood, not looking back this time. As he stepped onto the bus to return to his life, he felt a strange sense of closure. The mystery of Eva had been resolved, but the lesson she had taught him would stay with him forever. Some encounters, no matter how strange, are meant to teach us about letting go. And in that moment, Ethan understood what Eva had meant. It was time to move on, to embrace the future, and to leave behind the shadows of the past. What would you do if someone you trusted turned out to be a ghost from the past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to uncover more spine-chilling mysteries. Stay tuned. Your next ghostly encounter might just be one click away.